This video is sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Visit magiccandlecompany.com and use the offer code OFFHAND15 for 15% off your entire purchase.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to Ride vs. Ride, the show where we compare two different Disney attractions and I leave it up to you to decide which one you think is better. On today's episode, the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland opened on August 9th of 1969. The idea of a Haunted Mansion-style attraction went through many different incarnations. First as a walk-through-style haunted house attraction, and then later on as a weird collection of antiquities from all over the world called the Museum of the Weird. Eventually, Disney decided on a retirement home for ghosts from all over the world. Upon entering the queue, guests will find themselves in front of a massive antebellum-style mansion with well-tended gardens and courtyards. In the line, visitors will pass by a pet cemetery and a large number of graves containing funny plays on words. We then enter the Haunted Mansion through its front door. After this, we enter a foyer with a very old mirror that doesn't really do its job very well anymore, and then we are loaded into the stretching room. After the sequence in the stretching room, guests are emptied out into a hallway full of changing portraits, and two busts that seem to follow you wherever you go. After we board our doom buggies and journey into the realm of the supernatural, we begin our tour of the mansion. We then pass by a moving suit of armor and a seemingly endless hallway with a floating candelabra further on down. Turning away from the endless hallway, we travel past a glass conservatory filled with dead, withered plants and flowers. In the middle of the room is a coffin occupied by a restless zombie calling for guests to help him out of the coffin. We then journey through the corridor of living doors, where several doors have come to life and begun knocking on themselves, snarling at us viciously or sleeping. After passing by a grandfather clock chiming 13, we enter the seance room, where Madame Leota levitates above her seance table and calls in the spirits wherever they're at, and various fun musical effects happen in this room. Afterwards, we pass into the ballroom scene where we can see ghosts celebrating a birthday and just dancing around in circles, having just a jolly old time. After the ballroom scene, we then enter the attic scene, which is filled with pictures of men losing their heads to their bride, Constance Hatchaway. After coming face to face with Constance, we then meet the Hatbox Ghost, whose head disappears from between his shoulders and ends up in his hat box that he's holding. After this, we descend into the graveyard scene below, where we see a gravekeeper and his very scared dog looking on at a ghost party. Yes, another one. After passing by the singing busts in the graveyard scene, we pay a visit to the hitchhiking ghosts. We then disembark our doom buggies and head onto a moving sidewalk which carries us past Little Leota and then back into the park proper. And that, my friends, is Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. Now, let's compare and contrast with Walt Disney World's version of the Haunted Mansion. At Walt Disney World's Haunted Mansion, guests do not pass by a pet cemetery and funny plays on words on tombstones. Instead, they pass through a very unique interactive queue, with various different games and activities and fun little secret Easter eggs for us to experiment with while we wait in line. Before we enter the mansion, we can also see the tombstone of Madame Leota, which sometimes comes to life and looks around. Instead of entering through the mansion's front door like at Disneyland, we instead go through a door in the side of the mansion. Replacing the very old and dusty mirror from Disneyland's version of the foyer is a portrait that belongs to Master Gracie, who seems to age and then decompose before our very eyes. The stretching room sequences themselves are very similar, except at Disneyland the floor is actually moving down, whereas at Walt Disney World the ceiling is moving up. At the Magic Kingdom, there is also an effect to the ghost host's voice that makes it seem like he's flying around the room and changing his pitch and tempo. That's not present at Disneyland. The candles in this room also seem to flicker a little more realistically than at Disneyland. Last but certainly not least, you can hear the wall creaking and groaning as it extends. After this, we exit into the loading zone and board our doom buggies. After beginning our journey, we pass through the Hall of Changing Portraits, the very same one that we would have walked past at Disneyland. This one does feature a few paintings that are not at Disneyland though. After leaving the Hall of Changing Portraits, we enter the library, which is well stocked with the best ghost stories ever written. This scene is completely absent from the Disneyland version of the attraction, attraction, but it does feature the busts that follow your eyes from the Disneyland attraction, except again, we're not walking past them, we're riding past them. After this, we pass by an invisible ghost playing the piano, which is sort of present in the Disneyland version, except this ghost is in the library, whereas the other ghost is in the attic. After this, we pass into yet another Magic Kingdom exclusive scene, the Grand Staircase. Moving on from the staircase, we pass creatures in the wall that eventually become the wallpaper itself, as we move on to basically the same thing from Disneyland, the hallway, with the endless hallway, the moving set of armor, the zombie in the coffin trying to escape, and the corridor of doors. We then enter the seance room, which is very similar to Disneyland's, except there are a few different lighting effects added to make it look a little spookier. We then enter the ballroom scene, which again is very similar to Disneyland's but features a different organ. The Disneyland organ is very special, the Disney fans out there know why. The attic scene differs from the one at Disneyland because it does not feature the ghostly man playing the piano, and the Hatbox Ghost is completely absent. The graveyard scene remains mostly unchanged from Disneyland's version, except the lighting in this version is a little better. The hitchhiking ghosts, on the other hand, have completely updated animatronics, and instead of actually having a physical hitchhiking ghost riding alongside you in your doom buggy, it's just a video screen that plays in front of you. And from here, instead of exiting your doom buggy and walking past little Leota, you ride past her in your doom buggy and then disembark. The Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World does feature a number of different and additional scenes, like the library and the Grand Staircase. There are also tiny little additions that they don't feature in the Disneyland Mansion, like the creatures in the wall turning into the wallpaper, or the new and updated hitchhiking ghost animatronics. But the Disneyland version does feature the Hatbox Ghost in the attic, which is a very nice feature that Walt Disney World cannot lay claim to. The Walt Disney World version of the attraction, though, is a bit longer and a bit more polished, with better lighting techniques used, and some new effects thrown in here and there to help boost your immersion. Walt Disney World also does feature the interactive queue, which can help reduce the feeling of waiting so long in line, and even adds a bit to the story. So what do you guys think? What is your favorite version of the Haunted Mansion in the American parks? Make sure to comment down below and let me know so I can tally up all the votes, and I will let you know in the next episode of Ride vs. Ride which one you guys think is better. And keep in mind that I'm sort of still learning how to do this project, the best way to do this series, so let me know down in the comments if you liked this and you want to see more Ride vs. Ride, and what I could do better. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.